Good morning and welcome to the Killik & Co market update. After a really strong first half of the year for markets, we have had a bit of weakness over the last couple of days, and the reason is the latest minutes from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve didn't put interest rates up last month, and there were some question marks over whether interest rates in the US had peaked or whether the bank was just pausing before continuing to raise interest rates. The minutes do make it clear that the Federal Reserve anticipates further interest rate rises in the US. Here is the offending paragraph from the minutes. In discussing the policy outlook, all participants continued to anticipate that, with inflation still well above the committee's 2% goal and the labour market remaining very tight, maintaining a restrictive stance for monetary policy would be appropriate to achieve the committee's objectives. Almost all participants noted that in their economic projections that they judged that additional increases in the target federal funds rate during 2023 would be appropriate. So the market is now pricing in 2 additional rate rises in the US of 0.25% each, and that would take the US interest rate to 5.75%. On Thursday this week, Meta launched its long-awaited rival to Twitter, which is called Threads. Threads is linked to Instagram and already has over 30 million users, despite not yet being available in the EU. Twitter had been heavily criticised since its takeover by Elon Musk, so we'll be watching closely to see how many of its users will be jumping ship to Threads. Meta shares have experienced an impressive recovery in recent months. The shares had dropped heavily in 2022 for various reasons. One was the high predicted cost of the metaverse, then there were concerns that user numbers on the original Facebook platform might be falling, and then there was that general tech sell-off that took place in 2022. However, the predicted cost of the metaverse has now been reined in a bit. The numbers of users on Facebook has continued to grow, as have the numbers of users on the family of apps, including WhatsApp and Instagram. And finally, the tech sector as a whole has been recovering throughout 2023 so far. Here's the Nasdaq Composite versus the S&P 500 over the last 5 years. The Nasdaq is much more tech-focused, and you can see it outperformed up to the end of 2021. It underperformed in 2022, but it has experienced a sharper recovery in this year so far. And finally this week, we've had the latest UK car registrations data. The number of new vehicles registered in June this year was over 25% ahead of the number registered in June last year, showing that the supply chain problems in the car industry are continuing to ease. Let's look at the data for the first half of 2022 versus the first half of 2023. The number of diesel registrations has dropped, but registrations for all other types, petrol, mild hybrid, battery electric, and plug-in hybrid, all went up. In terms of market share of newly registered vehicles, petrol is still the most popular, with a 41.9% share. All the various hybrids took a combined share of 38.1%, with battery electric taking 16.1%. A closer look at the underlying data shows that more electric vehicles are being bought by businesses and fleets, perhaps because of the tax incentives, whereas individuals are clearly still nervous about the infrastructure for electric vehicles and they're continuing to buy petrol cars. Moving on to have a look at next week, we are expecting results out from JP Morgan and United Health. That's it from us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.